PowerPoint? Do you see it? All right. You never know when things are going to work or not. So this is a class I actually got to do at Family Reunion, and it was really fun. We got kind of into the nitty-gritty of the transaction, and I wanted to bring it to us because it was so interesting to share it at Family Reunion and also so timely. And in preparing for the class at Family Reunion, I did some research on NAR and to look quarter by quarter, how many transactions do you think had a cancellation 2 years ago? Like what percent of transactions do you think had, like they went under contract and then there was a cancellation? Dorian's like, yeah, not many. It was like 3 to 5%. Okay.
Not many. Yeah, not
Yeah,
many.
because basically we're like, let's name a price. Let's get 50 offers coming in, and then we'll see what sticks. Okay. And what price we get our seller up to. Well, now, in the last full quarter, guess what percent of transactions had a cancellation? Between 25 and 30%.
Oh my God.
And we're seeing it at the office as well. So that is a nationwide statistic. And yet I think our office is probably somewhere in line with that. So that is like an issue that is almost tenfold what it was 2 years ago. So bulletproofing a transaction is basically another skill, just like scripts, just like pricing, just like everything we do is a skill set. Bulletproofing the transaction is another skill set. Okay. So before we get started, we have an hour. What I'd like to ask before I get through my slides is you carve time here today. What do you want to make sure you get out of this so that I hit it? Ooh, who knows why that thing does thumbs up?
I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep a deal together.
Okay. Maybe new tips and tricks, or what about you, Dina?
I'm just here for anything that will, I feel like anytime I can take in good information from someone else in the moment when I have an issue, my autopilot's gonna click in and I'm gonna, remember these things. So I don't necessarily have a specific, as we talk, something may come to mind, but right now it's just really about gaining knowledge.
Do you know there is a bold law that I'm thinking of right now, and it's one that people never really understand, yet you just described it beautifully, and it is spontaneity is a conditioned reflex.
Ah, yeah.
So like spontaneously in the moment you say the right thing, you know the right thing to do, yet it's not spontaneous. It's a reflex you've conditioned by coming to all these trainings, practicing and doing all this. So anyway, great job, bold coach. Okay, so I don't know if Brian's still on his call, so I'm going to keep clicking through. TCPA, we are a very TCPA compliant company and office. Please make sure you check the do not call registry before you make any phone calls. I've said my piece. Okay, so decoding client service solutions. Caleb or I created this PowerPoint, so some of it sounds very wordy. You know me, and I don't really talk like that. However, it made me think of, do you guys know what this symbol is? Not this one. I don't even know if I can do it. but this one.
Work from work with
It's like from that movie that maybe it was this. No, it was from that movie, the Mockingjay movie.
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
you were wrong, and I can tell we are in our summer giggles. No, this is the Boy Scouts.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't a Boy Scout
I
ever.
was never a Boy Scout and I don't have boys, so I'm
Oh, so
sorry.
this is the Boy Scouts. This
Brian,
is,
this one was on you.
yeah, Brian would know this.
I, I was not in the Scouts either, but I was aware of that. I remember that little.
Yep, he knows this. And this is the Scouts motto. And the Scouts motto, when they do this, actually stands for be prepared. And being prepared, which is funny because I always told my kids that the Scouts motto is leave a place better than you found it. That's why I told them to clean up behind themselves. So I've been lying this whole time. Don't tell my
Oh,
kids.
they're
Anyway,
never gonna
so
know.
the Scouts motto, this little three fingers, is be prepared. And what they practice in the Scouts has such a strong connection to what we're talking about. They basically go into any situation with the question, what can go wrong? What are all the things that can go wrong when we're hiking, when we're camping, hydration, food, if we get lost, maps, what could go wrong? Well, just like the Scouts, I love this from the book Shift. It says, assume everything will go wrong and come up with ways to possibly prevent them from happening or effectively deal with them if they do.
Mhm.
So here's my question. If you're a student of the NABOR contract or the FARBAR contract, how many points of negotiation are there in that contract?
A million. I don't know. A
That's
lot.
it. I mean, typically, there's 60 something points from initial deposit to price to additional deposit to inspections to appraisals to, can you assign or not? I mean, there's so many different points to a contract. So you have to basically slow down a little bit and take that contract and list out what is everything that could possibly go wrong and have a solution for it. And the
Mhm.
solution isn't after it goes wrong. It's first, how do I prepare my consumer for this? Okay. How do I show them all of the options to walk them through this? Okay. And some of you are like, wow, that seems really, really detailed. Yet, couldn't we create a communication plan that is running in the background? Hey, coming up next, or this is what we can expect, that prepares them for all of these points of the contract. Yeah.
So in the neighbor contract, it does have that timeline thing, which I'm not a fan of, but if you are doing any type of, if you've ever done any type of TC work or kind of what, the lines are, the deadlines are, I mean, there's going to be a problem at every step of the way. And
Yep.
I say that to my customers, be prepared. We're going to have problems every step of the way, but I'm going to take care of it. And when I can't, we're going to talk about it, and
Yeah.
so we're problem solvers. That's what we do.
And that we talk about in the promise, we say, we promise to meet and exceed all of your expectations. The promise, though, isn't that everything is going to be perfect and seamless, because it just isn't. Yet I do promise that we're going to work together to come up with a solution that is best for you. So it's kind of like, hey, it's going to hit the fan, yet we're going to work through it together. Okay. So that is one recommendation, to really take that contract and think, do I have a tool of communication? And I'm actually going to share with you ours for our team, and all of the communication associated with it. You're going to see my high C in the disc profile come out in just a little bit. Okay. So what is bulletproofing the transaction? It's, again, thinking ahead of what could derail your transaction. Okay. And most often why transactions fall apart can kind of be narrowed down to the following four major categories, which is reluctance. Okay. We sometimes get a little bit reluctant that we're making this big purchase, or we get a little reluctant about rates, or we get a little bit reluctant or we have concerns like, oh, that inspection was more than I thought it was going to be, or am I buying the best home in this neighborhood? Media influence. Well, goodness, we've got a lot of that these days. So mitigating the impact of, the real estate market's falling apart, and, all this. And then family, friends, and coworkers. My favorite is when you are going to show a home and a parent shows up that you didn't know anything about until you're at that property and you're thinking, I've been talking not to the decision maker, even though they're going to be the person that's on the loan. This is really the decision maker. Anyway, friends, family, coworkers, workers can impact the transaction. So 3 different solutions. There's a myriad of reasons that a deal can fall apart, yet there's really 3 great ways or solutions to hold your deal together, okay? The first one is transparency. The second is consistent communication. And then the third one, I love that my Zoom does this. And then the third one is making sure you have leveraged trusted professionals throughout the transaction. Okay, so we're going to dive into those 3 specifically today. So let's talk a little bit about transparency. And actually, before we do that, you know, my sense of humor can be a little bit twisted. Have you guys ever seen on Netflix, like the movie clickbait or catfishing? Have you ever heard of those phrases? Doreen, what do they mean?
It's when you are pretending to be somebody else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. So I thought about transparency through that lens. Like catfishing, to my knowledge, is when they put this like beautiful picture up of someone that maybe isn't even them or was them 20 years ago on a dating site. And then the person shows up for the date and it's like, oh, that's not who I thought it was going to be.
Kind of
Well,
like my real estate
On
picture.
realtor
Yeah.
cards where
yeah.
everybody still has their 20-year-old realtor picture. Those realtors are catfishing. Come on now.
They
Update.
are. They are. Our regional director, Mark Olish, he's got this picture from 10 years ago. And I texted him, I said, Mark, I feel like you're kind of getting into a slippery slope over there. He just turned 50 or 60. I don't know. I'm very bad with that. And I said, I think it's time for the new decade's pictures. He's like, you're a sassy little thing. Anyway, yet catfishing isn't very helpful for dating. And transparency is what is helpful for real estate. And transparency, when we think about it, is really in all things, like as transparent as we can possibly be. If you think about transparency when working with a real estate customer, when can it even begin?
I think it has to begin from minute 1.
Yeah. Minute 1 is the first thing they see of you online. They see of your marketing. They see of your materials. You know, in Tampa, we have a real estate team that online offers if we don't sell your house in 14 days, we'll buy it. Or, you know, all these different kind of schemes to get them in the door. And it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, okay? They will sell 400, 500 houses a year. Yet if you really dive into their online reviews, people feel like they were clickbaited. Like I had them over and I thought they were going to do this, but then they lied. Or if you pull their listings in the MLS, about 1/3 of them expire.
They don't.
So you know, because they started out with a lack of transparency right out of the gate. Okay. So what can you do in your marketing materials online, your ads, your social media, your mailers to make sure that who you are comes across in a transparent way. So there's no, well, I thought you were going to do this for me, or I thought you did this. Okay. A couple other things I would jot down is your buyer consultation and your listing presentation to buyers and sellers should have an outline checklist of your value proposition. This is exactly what we do for you. This is all of the value that we provide. Because that's about as transparent. And the great thing is you're teaching them, yet you're also doing what?
You're setting the expectation.
You're setting the expectation. You're also holding yourself accountable.
That
You know,
too.
we have this great seller book that we share, and it says we're going to do all of this marketing and all of this stuff. I don't know about you guys. I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders until we have delivered what we say we're going to deliver. So there's some accountability for ourselves as well. I think another way that you can take a leg up on the transparency and the whole goal of being transparent is to build what? Trust. You got it. Like proof, believability, trust. Every relationship, there's that little triangle in a relationship, and the cornerstone of it is trust. And a great way to develop trust is your online reviews. Like if I go and look for Dina Johnson, Dina, how many can I coach you a little bit? Okay, how many online reviews would I find?
Uh, Probably, I think maybe 6 or 7, which is not enough, but I've had some people that just, they're great clients. They give me referrals and but they don't want to fill out the, form and, do the online thing. And I've had several that are like that. But all the ones that I do have are good. So
How could you make it even easier for them? Like a little direct link or something like
yeah,
that?
and I've done that, I've done that. I've sent and then, I've sent it like a couple of times. And I actually did have one client who told me that she just didn't want to have to I guess you had to create an account or something. Um, Now of course I haven't had as many sales as like Doreen and yourself. I'm not sure about Brian, but so as far as I feel like I've gotten a good probably about 75% of my people have
Good.
used.
Well,
Maybe I
and
have
think about it this way too, Dina.
favorites.
Which home inspectors have you worked with? Which lenders have you worked with? Who else that could do a Google review for you? Because yes, Zillow, you need a property and all that good stuff, yet
I
who
never
wants to
thought
invest?
about that. I
Yeah,
never thought about having people that I work with
yeah.
on
Or
a
even
transaction.
friends of yours that haven't transacted yet, that you're updating their home valuation for them, you're sending them, they're just kind of in queue in the pipeline. Could they increase your online trustworthiness by doing a review?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had my mom, my, friends.
I did get my husband to do it for me, but I didn't ever thought about really asking some other people but they know how I work.
Yeah, well,
So,
think about our office. We just asked in Marco Island for our agents to do a review for our office.
mhm.
We only had like 10 reviews online.
Oh,
I mean,
I will do it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but I will get it done for you. I'm
I am
sorry.
not
I'm,
calling you
I'm like
out.
my clients are just like, I will
So I
do it.
have a financial planner that did one for me and asked me to do one for him as well. And
Yeah.
actually I mean, you don't realize until you get one or two that, oh my goodness, you can ask anybody to do reviews
Yep.
for you.
Yeah, anyone that you've talked shop, real estate, anyone in your downline, colleagues, any referral agent that you've ever sent a referral to, and vice versa. Yeah, I can do one for you. We've done referral work together.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. All right, so transparency and transaction issues. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention on the last one, the trustworthiness is, are you aware of what the promise is? I referred to it a minute ago. We have something in all of our marketing that says, ask me about the promise. Ask me about the promise. Doreen, do you know what the promise is? Okay, so it's something that we even say as we're pre-qualifying a seller or, pre-qualifying a buyer. I say, hey, before I let you go, don't let me forget at our appointment tomorrow at 3 o'clock to talk through what our promise is to our customers. And they'll say, oh, okay. They don't know what it is. So then we hang up the phone, and in their pre-listing package or their pre-buyer package, we have a page and it says, here's our promise to you. And it's that we will meet and exceed all of your expectations in what you would envision a real estate transaction would be. And in return, we would ask that you do 2 things for us. Give us a 5-star review and refer a friend, family, coworker to, for anything real estate, even home improvement, by the time we get to closing. And so we say, would that be okay with you if we exceed all your expectations? And we've yet to have someone say no. So, and it sets the expectation. If there's ever a time that we're not exceeding your expectations, please let us know, because it's just a lack of understanding, of what the expectation is. Okay. Yeah.
So refer a friend, family member. I'm sorry, what was the other? Do a review? Is that what you did?
A 5-star review. And we
5-star.
didn't used to say 5-star until someone did a 4-star review. And I was like, oh, what is this?
Right.
Oh no. And they're like, oh, I always think there's room for improvement. So I just did a 4-star. Oh, that's on me. Anyhow, so 5-star review, and that you would refer a friend, family, or a coworker. And let me see, can you drop the promise in the chat box? We'll have Angela drop the little 1-pager that we put in our materials so you guys can have it. It is a great system. It's on our email signatures. Our admin on our team, their signature says, how am I doing on delivering the promise to you? We have t-shirts that say the promise on it. And it's truly to help us get more online reviews and referrals. So we have a referral-based business. Okay, so a couple of things, transparency and transaction issues. Communication, leave no room for meaning to be inferred. Have you ever had that little feeling where you're like, oh, I probably should have said more about this? Okay, we all have that little feeling. That's when I just pick the phone right back up and say, hey, we just hung up and I realized there was something really important that I forgot to mention. Leave no room for interpretation, like make it so blatantly clear, put things in writing, have addenda, have email communication, have text documentation, whatever you need, make it blatantly clear about deadlines, the services that you provide, the services that you do not provide, why you are at the inspection, why you aren't at the inspection. There's a lot of gray area that in our litigious world, we want to make sure we close the loop on, okay? And make things very black and white. Property information, if you're taking notes, disclose, disclose, disclose. Well, no, that leak was fixed a long time ago. Like, I don't need to even put that. No, the great news is you did all new flooring, you fixed it by the book. We do need to put that in there, okay? We are going to disclose every material known fact, okay? And then pricing. We make sure with our sellers that we ask them in the pre-qualification, you know, hey, everybody's been on Zillow and kind of has an idea of what they think their house is worth. What idea were you thinking of listing at, Mr. Seller? And if they'll say, well, I don't know, that's your job. You've got to tell me. I can appreciate that, and I will definitely have my homework done. Yet, when you're thinking about selling your home, is there a price that you wouldn't go below? Okay, and so I'm working to get a band of pricing ranges. And then when I come to the property, I have lots of research, their comps, everything right in front of them. And then I actually am having them choose the price. Based on what I've shared with you, based on these pricing strategies, which price do you choose to list your home at? So that it's never like, I said the price was this, okay? And it's actually one of the closes in our listing presentation is, so we've agreed on a price that will cause your home to sell. So again, it's totally clear, okay? And sometimes when we take a listing, and it's going to be 4 weeks out or 8 weeks out, we will not put a price on the listing paperwork. What we will do is put to be determined at time of listing, and then we will have a whole nother consultation just to get clarity on the price, because you guys know things are changing. Like when we're pulling comps now, we're pulling within 60 days. That's it. Because stuff that's 6 months old is not accurate. Okay. Have you guys seen, John uses this, John McLeod in, yeah, Dina, go ahead.
Well, just on that note, I just have a question because I have a listing that we went under contract back in September. And so at the time, the comps that we were going by, you know, we went like with like 3 months prior to that, which was kind of right at the beginning of the decline, I guess, you know, but we really didn't have anything to go by in this community other than that. And we came a little lower than that last price because we hadn't been there now. But now here we are, we've gone through season and we've had you know, several price reductions, and they were big ones, like we did 3 big ones. So we started at $870 and we're now at $750 and we're still just sitting there. And I'm, you know, we have it, did have her extend back in May, we extended to September. But you know, I am like, I feel like I'm not doing the job. I've, you know, emailed it. I've done open houses like consistently weekly. You know, it's just not getting, you know, the traction. And so I don't know if you have like some kind of a super tip there on what to do. But you know, I just feel horrible because I feel like, but you know, I don't think it's just that. I mean, you know, things are sitting everywhere, condos, you know, so.
Have you had that conversation with them?
Yeah, I mean, I've shown them the absorption rate, you know, the number, you know, the month supply, which keep, you know, every month is going up and up and up. So I
Mhm.
have been giving them all of that information regularly, you know, and updating them. So, you know, I mean, we even you know, staged the condo after the first few months. We thought, okay, maybe we need to stage it because it was only partially furnished. And, you know, it's just been one of those things. I've never experienced this
I
before
think there's two
in my life.
things that you can do. Number one, you're already doing it, okay? And it's being very clear in communication around the pricing and how the market has changed. And it's like, you know, I use this analogy when the goal is to price ahead of the market. Unfortunately, what you guys did is you priced at the top of the market, and it's like standing at the top of a hill. You let go of this little ball and the ball starts going down and you're chasing it and chasing to get to the ball. Do you ever catch the ball?
Not unless you run a little faster.
Which in our world is
No
what?
ball after it. Know, I know. Yeah.
It's
But
taking
we're
more.
past that point now, so now, you know.
Yeah. So the one thing is explain to them the pricing. Okay, what's happening in the market. And then the second thing is get really clear on their motivation. Okay. Are they motivated to sell it? Do they need to sell it? Do they have somewhere else they're going to go? Because the reason I was clicking around is, have you guys seen this? Can you see my
Yes.
screen?
Yes, the
Okay,
fishy.
the little fishing thing.
Mhm.
So this is what we have a book that we share with sellers, and this is now like a loose leaf sheet that is in our book because of the importance of pricing and how much it has changed since we printed these books. And it talks through number one, your property is receiving little action, low to no showings. Reposition the bait. We got to do a large price reduction. The second one is the property has showings but no offers. Okay, we just need to reposition a little bit. Okay, so maybe a smaller price reduction. And then lastly, finally, where we all intend to be is your property sells. Okay, I just saw Corey Lauer post. He had 23 offers on a piece of land that he just had listed. So there are buyers out there. And it just depends on the market, the price, okay? And then finally on this one, transparency on this section, it really goes in detail on a few different things. Here's all I want you to hear from this is, when something goes wrong in a real estate transaction, the lights are left on or the other seller is rude or whatever happens, whose fault is it?
Yours.
It's yours. And I remember I grew up where I was taught, now don't you apologize for something you didn't do. Well, that did not serve very well in real estate when we just take responsibility for everything because that levels up the professionalism in our industry. Okay. There's going to be things that happen. We just take, like Dina, you just gave us a great example. Hey, we priced it at this, and the reality is the market is here. So let's make an adjustment. We did the best we could in that moment in time, and now we're going to do the best we can in this moment in time. And my recommendation is to price like this. Okay. All right, we've talked about our fishing picture. Okay, so the vital role of consistent communication. When you have a property that you have put on the market or you've put it under contract and you're going to closing, what does your communication plan look like with your customer so that it's consistent from customer to customer? What does it look like?
do you start by asking them their preferred method of communication? Do they want phone calls, text messages, emails?
That's one thing. We are definitely going to hit that. Yes. What else?
Oh, I actually, I don't love the timeline sheet like Doreen was talking about, but I do use that. Or I either will use it depending on the client. I'll either use that or I will send an email letting them know, these dates, this is due by now. Then when we get to the inspection part, then I go over those dates and stuff. But I try to, I definitely keep in touch and I always let them know what's coming next. I may not give them the whole picture from the very
Mhm.
beginning because sometimes I feel like people, if you give them too much, they, kind of,
Overwhelming.
some people are like that. But if you keep them on track in segments, unless there's like, you know, a possible issue or something, obviously then we're having a discussion in advance about it, de-
I
depending on.
do, I'm sorry.
No, go Doreen, please.
I think that when you're talking about going under agreement, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I mean, obviously the rules are different, but if it's a buyer, if it's a seller, you're not going to have as much communication with them. And I think it's important to let them know, hey, once we go under agreement, this is happening next. We have, like Dina said, these timelines,
Mhm.
these dates that are important, but our communication is going to be pretty much diminished. I mean, call me whenever you need me, but there's not going to be a lot going on between now and closing.
Mhm.
Buyer, it's different, it just depends on who you're talking to.
So what we have found, and we've learned this the hard way, is we have systematized our communication, okay? And it is from every point in the transaction. So let's say it's the seller, just like we were talking about with Doreen a second ago, we do say, hey, great news. Like the hardest part for you is done. Keeping that house spotless for all those showings, getting clothes on the kids and throwing them in the car, like great job. Okay. Now the buyer does have the heavy lifting of home inspections and all of that. However, we want to make sure that they get consistent communication, how to best prepare your home for a home inspection. What is an appraisal looking for? Here's what the possibilities that can happen in an appraisal. It can come in right at value and yay, we celebrate. It could come in a little bit low, or it could even come in high, which we may not even know that. Okay. So the good news is if an appraisal comes in low, we have a few different options. And I want you to be thinking about these just in case, we have to look at this in the near future. So we are preparing them for any possible solution before it even happens. And the way that we have done it is systematic communication through a timeline or a checklist. Okay. And that's when we list your property, when we put it under contract, and then it just rolls into a 36 touch when they're not actively searching. So I did obviously love Command. Our team uses it. I think we're at 65 closed and pending for the year. So it can handle some volume of transactions. Okay. Yet this right here is in opportunities. When you move people through different phases of the opportunity, have an assigned task list that has specific emails that you're going to send or specific phone calls you're going to make, so that when you log into Command every day, you're just living out of your checklist, your task list. That's how you get a systematized, repeatable experience for every customer that works with you. And that's our goal. I know I look back and I think, man, I knocked it out of the park with that family. And then I think, not so great on this one. That was new construction and like they might have gone a month without talking to me. Because the builder and the consumer end up being in dialogue and you're kind of the third wheel, and it just doesn't always end up well. However, the more we systematize it, the better it gets. Would you guys agree? So a couple of things, again, in different stages, how can you make very very detailed task lists so that your customers are hearing from you, they're getting feedback from you that is timely, and it's all set up in Command, okay? We're not gonna go through this one yet. You can set up campaigns to communicate with them throughout the transaction. We will not go through that, I promise. When do the wheels fall apart? Brian said this earlier, when communication styles are not matched. Have you ever been halfway through the transaction and someone says, hey, do you mind, like, you don't need to tell me everything. Like, she makes all the decisions. I don't even want to know. Like, I work 20 hours a day. Can you cut it with the, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I thought I was doing right by them. And without asking, we're doing right by what we think we're doing. So communication methods are not matched. You know, you've worked with a high D, you've worked with a high C, you've worked with a high I, and we become amazing chameleons to the people that we are serving. Okay. And I've had people say, isn't that a little bit disingenuous? No, because in sales, we are looking to make the person that we serve comfortable. So if I'm working with a high C, an engineer that needs details, and I just say, trust me, you're going to love it. I mean, I have just set them into orbit, and that works well for me because I'm like, this listing should take about 10 minutes. Push hard, 3 papers, here's your copy, and let's go. They're not like that. And really the experience is about them. Okay. I just aged myself with that example I gave. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to show you that I thought would be helpful, and I will share all of this with you if you would like it, are a couple of our systems for our real estate team. Can you guys see? I know I just clicked. Do you see this thing with lots of lines? Okay, so, oh goodness. This is years of real estate transactions and thinking, oh, we dropped the ball there. Let's add a line on our checklist for it. Ooh, we could have done better with this. There's a little phrase that I implore you to hold, and it's CANEI, constant and never-ending improvement. You know, our leadership team at both offices is constantly saying, how can we be better? How can onboarding be better? What value can we bring for our top 20%? Well, your real estate team is the exact same thing. We're just a bigger team at the office. So you will see on this contract to close system, don't fall out of your chair, okay? There are 79 items on our contract to close system, okay? So, and you can see we have it labeled in this first column of who the person is, okay? So we have the agent partner, which is AP. We have the TC or transaction coordinator, because we do have a transaction coordinator on our team. And you'll see sometimes our VAs are on here too, the VA. So here is all of the items on the checklist. So, you know, systems and opportunities, write the offer detail and insurance, send to under contract with proof of funds or pre-approval, write the offer, create documents, create loop, add all attachments from the MLS, share with the agent partner for review and drafting, addendum. Part of the value proposition on our team is our VA does pull the documents all together and do an initial draft just to save time for our agents. They then have to go through all of it, obviously, yet it's a value proposition that we provide. Execute all of the documents, hand off to the cooperating agent. So here's now where we've kind of taken it to the next step, okay? TC handoff email to the cooperating agent. Let's see if it's gonna let me. So here is our system. Can you guys see all the stuff that's popping up on my screen? Okay, so here's the checklist of what must happen, okay? The different documents that need to be in there. Here's the email to the listing agent. Great news, executed contract. Email to the buyer's agent. Here's the actual email that we send to the listing agent. Great news, we have an executed contract on. The Rutherford Group looks forward to working with you and completing a smooth transaction. Amanda, who's our transaction coordinator, is the transaction coordinator on the team and will be assisting me with closing. Our transaction management team has helped over 1,000 contract to close transactions to date. So please know Amanda has the expertise and experience to take us to the finish line. Here's her contact information. And then, here's the email to the buyer, more information. Okay, so that's step number one. Here's a little script for them to call the TC and introduce themselves to the agent. So what do you see in the level of detail that we have just on one item out of 70 something?
There are a lot of steps. You have to know what they are, and you have to do it consistently every time to make the system work.
Yep. And what can we rest assured when we execute this play?
There will be no problems if you do it all the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, that, here's a story I tell, and I learned this the hard way. My brother brought a property with our team. Obviously, I was his agent, and this was, gosh, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I said, hey, we're going to do a buyer consultation. I want to walk you through it, and it's going to be great. And he's like, Amber, I've owned a home before. I don't need your like song and dance thing. And I was like, okay, he's my older brother. If you see him, he looks much older. No, I'm just kidding. And so I said, fine, we don't need to do it. Well, we get all the way to the closing table, and the title agent said, hey, can you sign this document that said you did not elect to do a wood destroying organism inspection on your property? And I mean, my brother and his wife, their necks like flipped at me. And I said, okay, we didn't do a termite inspection. He goes, why didn't we do a termite inspection? Well, guess where I talk about the importance of a termite inspection? In that buyer consultation. And of course, you're in the moment. They're still excited about the house. He's like, oh, my annoying sister screwed something else up again. And wouldn't you know, 3 years later, when the termites were swarming their home, and the termite person said, oh, they have to have been up there for several years to be at this level of decimation. Their home was basically falling in. And he said, did you guys not do a termite inspection when you bought the property? So I think some of my checklist and items are from being a little bit OCD, yet they're also from the pain of, if you skip even the smallest step, really bad things can happen. And so in this, I mean, we have, what is our email to the cooperating agent? What is our email to the title agent? What is our email to the lender? Here's Google Calendar of all the important dates. Here are the dates of the contract, of the inspection deadline, of the financing. Everything is literally systematized so that we don't mess things up. Okay. We also have, we give our sellers and our buyers a summary of, this is what we did this week for you, so that they can see what we are doing to earn our professional service fee. Do you think that that is important at this juncture in our profession?
Yeah, you want them to send you a review after. You want them to know all the stuff that you're doing for them.
Yeah, and I also don't want them to question that they're paying me a commission, because the whole world is now questioning that. Okay, so when you show, here is from the time of contract to closing, the 77 things that I'm going to do to make sure that we get to closing, they don't want to figure that out on their own. Okay. Compliance is in here. Send the lender intro for loan commitments. I mean, literally every single one of these has an email that is attached to it, directions, another checklist that is attached to it, so that we don't miss anything. We even send them how to prepare your house for an appraisal. how to prepare your home for a home inspection, you know, some of the subtle nuances of different types of financing of the buyer who's purchasing their home, what you may need to expect with an FHA inspection, things that they, you know, might not have thought of before. So the reason I'm showing you all of this is when you prepare people for what is to come ahead of time, it's like, if you haven't listened to the MREA podcast with Jason Abrams, the very first one that he did was with Phil Jones, who wrote the book, What to Say, or The Importance of What to Say, or whatever. He's all about language. And Phil Jones says, your job as a real estate professional is to bring the elephant into the room. And that is when we talk about, you know, people will say, why are you going to tell them that a low appraisal is possible? Like, aren't you putting out bad juju? No, I want them to know, like, this is what could happen so that if it does happen, we're prepared for it. It's not some shock or chaos when the moment happens, because I've said, hey, this is typical. It could happen. And here are 3 different steps that we could take.
Amber, my apologies. I just got a call. I have to leave right now.
You're
But
fine.
this is fabulous. This is recorded, correct? We'll have access.
Yes, I think so.
I think it
think
was. I think I had to check that.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll post it on our YouTube page.
Okay, again, my apologies and thank you. This is great.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you. Okay, so checklist, and then we're going to hit one more thing, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Okay, the last section of this is, so first one was transparency. Disclose, disclose, disclose. No fish bait, catfish, whatever you call that. And then the second one is communication. I know that that might have seemed a little bit overwhelming. It's taken a decade to build that communication plan. However, we don't ever want our people to think like, you didn't tell me this is a possibility. You didn't tell me that this could happen. I was blindsided. We don't ever hear that. Okay. Sometimes we hear like, whoo, that was a lot of information. Okay. And then the last one, which is so important, is the vital role of trusted professionals. Okay. And who you're in business with matters. It's one of the value statements of Keller Williams. And I believe this to the tips of my toes. Okay. When we think about the professionals involved in the transaction, we've got internally, which is the other agent. Okay. Internal. And then we have external, home inspector, lender, title person. They're still all related. They're not just not you and the other agent. Okay. And when you can't always control who brings the offer, okay? Yet you can do some things before your seller even or buyer, okay, works with the other agent. You can make some requests to kind of show that agent, this is what it's going to be like to do business with me, okay? We're not going to piecemeal this offer. You're not going to send me contract today and addenda tomorrow. We will wait until it is complete. You can set the expectations of your level of professionalism and make sure that they rise to it. Okay. And then external, we're going to talk about that. Who you're in business with matters, and picking those right professionals. So conflict of interest, we're all professionals. I don't really need to talk about that. Actually, Jeff can tell you we had a conflict of interest issue we were dealing with for a few weeks. So it does come up, and yet it was not with one of our agents. And then communication, again, I'm sure Jeff hears this quite a bit. Like, I just never heard from my agent. They stopped talking to me. I didn't know this was happening. We've got to make sure that not only are we in great communication, that the professionals that we hire, when you're working with a title company, when you're working with a lender, you want to give them that contract and think, whew, like my hard part was done. I know they're going to take it from here and get it to closing and make it happen. And if we have any doubts on that, then they are not the right partner. Okay. And then obviously ethical concerns, keep our MVVBP in mind, and always work to have a win-win. So trusted professionals, solutions. Number one, evaluate their credentials. How do you interview a vendor that you're going to use?
Coffee, a meal, talk with them about their business.
I love it.
I met a lot of my vendors way back at the beginning, when I started in real estate here in Florida, because I was part of the board, and you just go to the board to build your toolbox, to build your team, and you get to know people, and it's like in life, you work with them because you like them and you like what they have to say, or you don't work with them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So networking, belly to belly, actually meeting them. You can tell a lot from a person when you're sitting with them. Okay, what else?
I just had an example this past week. I'm in need of a remodeler. So instead of just sharing contact information, I ask each of the people that I interview, what properties can you show me firsthand and what projects do you have going? So
Now we're talking.
So I went and physically saw what they were doing, and I saw before and after pictures. So now I have 3 companies that I can introduce my buyer to, that they can make a decision.
Fantastic. That's the thorough inspecting that we're talking about. Okay. A couple of different ways. What are their online reviews? Like, my goodness, I trust if you give a home inspector to someone, or if you give whomever to someone, you've looked at their online profile. Okay. You can also go on social media, on Facebook. In, let's say there's Naples neighborhood, or mine is Brandon community. And if I type in plumber, I should see a lot of, the post where who knows a great plumber. And then you want to look through those and see who's been recommended authentically the most. Before we give people vendors, we have to vet them. Okay. Because no matter what, they see it as a link, even though they sign documents that say, just because I recommend someone does not mean you can come back and sue me. Okay. Inspect what you expect. That was such a great example of actually driving by the projects and seeing it. I love that. Communicate expectations clearly with clients and the trusted professional. The stager on our team, the photographer on our real estate team, they actually schedule directly with the consumer. So that's an expectation with our team. If you're going to work with us, you are going to be the one. Because I sat in my office one day about 9 years ago, and I heard my assistant calling the photographer, calling the seller, calling the photographer back. Does that time work for you? No. How about this time? And I thought, what are we doing? Why are you the go-between? Don't they have a little easy link for them to go and sign up? No, they don't. Okay, well then it's going to be their responsibility to handle the scheduling. We're not their assistant as well. Okay. So the same thing with our home stager. When you work with a certain home inspector, what are the expectations? That they wear booties, that they, set the house to this when they're done, that they leave a little thank you note. What are the expectations? Make sure they are very clear. Okay. Trusted professionals. I think this one goes without, we can't emphasize it enough. Get quotes early. Insurance quotes, any quotes that they're thinking of for work for the properties, windows, whatever they're doing, get them early, because my goodness, insurance has changed quite a bit, and it can kill a deal. Get that stuff done early so the deal doesn't blow up at the end. Work cooperatively with all people in the transaction. And I have here, and I will share this out with everybody. You can find it on our monthly training calendar. These are our trusted professionals that we have vetted as an office, that you can use for insurance, for lending, for photography, for title. You can use all of these people. They have worked with our office, at a great length. Okay. And that's really it. I think the most important part is be ahead of things. Okay, bring the elephant in the room, over communicate, be transparent. You know, if you find something out on Friday, don't hold it all weekend long until Monday. Okay, because then invariably they're going to ask you what? When did you
Why
find?
didn't you tell me sooner?
Yeah, when did you
When
find
did
out
you
about
find out?
this?
Yes.
So it's not fun, yet we just eat that elephant one bite at a time. All right, give me feedback, takeaways, questions, anything you have. We have about 5 minutes.
Well,
All
I just
great.
really like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dina, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I really, really like that list that you're creating, because I kind of have been doing the same, you know, every time there's ever something that I feel like I didn't do right or something, you know, I always make a mental note, oh, I don't ever want to do that again, but I've never actually, you know, created that checklist. So I would love a copy of yours so that I
Yep.
can kind of take from what I see on yours and start creating my own. Thank you.
For sure. I will be happy to share those. What else?
I feel like it's a lot of good information and I appreciate your time.
Always, Doreen, always. I used to, when we were in the baby beginning phase, it was sitting on top of a little, you know, manila. Oh my gosh, this thing, it's always something. It was on a little file folder, my little stapled checklist, and I would check things off as I went. Well, that went into a spreadsheet with emails. Then we've used a couple of different softwares, Brivity, Lion's Desk. We've used different transaction management systems, and now it all lives in Command. Because in Command, you can assign tasks to different people. You can have those email templates all in there in a little task list item, send email, the template's there. And the best part is, as a team owner, I can log in to every single opportunity and see what's been done, what still needs to be done. It's a beautiful thing. A lot better than my paper checklist.
Great class, Amber.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Broker Jeff says, great job.
Thanks, Broker Jeff. Broker Jeff appreciates a bulletproofing the transaction class for sure. All right, guys. Well, I trust your summer. I'm sure you've heard little people running all around. School's out in Tampa. Anyway, I trust your summer is getting off to a good start and you had some nice family time this weekend, remembering our heroes. So I appreciate you guys and I will see you soon. Hey, mark your calendar, June 24th from 9 to 1 at NABOR. We are going to have an all company meeting across both offices. And we're going to have panels. We're going to have how to hold luxury events. We are going to have market updates. Jeff and I will see where we're at with NAR lawsuit appeals, and maybe we'll have an update on that. Maybe we won't. Yeah, we're going to have some great value with agents from other markets. We have an agent coming. She's going to share how she broke into the luxury market. We have quite a jam-packed value session. The 24th from 9 to 1 at NABOR.
I'm out of town, but I'm sad.
Well, we're going to do one every quarter, so
Good.
we'll get you on the flip side.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank
you.
you.
All right,
you.
bye, guys.
Bye.